With today is we're going to be focusing on the awareness of ADHD. And Nicole is a genius when it comes to this. So I'm really excited to bring her on. And this is just to help not only myself and my family, as my nephew has it, but to help anybody else out there who just may have questions or is not sure how to approach it, and just to help them cope with it, to live with it, and to do it in the best way possible. At the end of the day, you'll figure out what works for you, and it's going to be your style. But all this little bit of information is definitely going to help, and I'm excited to bring Nicole. And the whole reason why I wanted to bring Nicole as my first guest is because my nephew, who is 10 years old, has ADHD, and sometimes it's a struggle. There's things that I wish I knew how to help him better, and there's just a struggle with the communication and just how to figure out, how to get down to his level and just make him understand certain things, what's right, what's wrong, as not only as a parent, but even as his uncle, just trying to get those little pieces of information that I may be missing. And this is why we have Nicole, who she is on right now. So I will bring her on in just a few seconds. She should be connecting soon. There she goes. Hey, Nicole.
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me okay?
I hear you perfectly fine. You got me?
Yeah, I've got you. Hi, Flora. How's it going?
Awesome. I'm doing good. So I first want to say thank you so much for coming on. This not only means a lot to me and my family, but I've been getting some really positive messages from others who are really interested in just hearing this live in general, and hoping they can get some good information out of this. So I really appreciate you taking the time and doing this.
Of course, my pleasure.
Yeah, and I'm excited to hear what you got to say. I know you're a Spanish teacher.
Yes, that's my profession. I'm on a sabbatical, but that's my professional life. Yep.
Awesome. And mental health awareness coach and all that.
Yes.
Awesome.
But
I know your passion is ADHD. So I wanted to just
Totally.
kind of, start with how you came about with just with that in general, with having, discovering it in your children and yourself, and Angel and, your husband.
Yeah, right.
And how all that started, because I'm sure it wasn't just your children were born and you already knew off the bat. But so how did that start? Like, take me back to the beginning.
Sure. So I'll talk about the process. My son, he's 13 now. So when Benicio was a baby, he was colicky. He didn't have great sleeping patterns, and he just wanted to be held a lot. He just had a lot of needs. He was just a baby that needed a lot. He needed a lot of attention. As he got older, he was super busy. So he was just into everything, and it was my first child. So I just figured, he's busy. This is the way he is. I'll figure this out. I think my mom sat down with me when he was about 4, and she said, you have to get a handle on your son. You're not disciplining him well. And it really, really hurt me. And she was trying to help. And I know that. I know she was trying to help. If she's watching later, I know you're trying to help me, Mom, and I appreciate it. But for me, that sort of had me realizing, wow, he really is. He ran away from me. Like if we were at a park, he would run away and scare me. On the beach one time he ran, and I could barely catch up with him.
Wow.
So he was just a really, really busy kid, really wanted his own way, had a lot of emotional struggles, like he couldn't control his emotions very well. Lots of tantrums and outbreaks like that, where he would just get really, really angry. I'm a super patient person, really calm. One of the reasons I picked teaching, not calm, I have a lot of energy, but I'm calm as far as I can handle a lot. I have a long fuse, so I can take a lot before I get upset. And it was great for education. I taught middle school for most of my career. They're still my favorite kids, and I have a middle school kid right now, right? My son is in 7th grade. So I think I started to realize, hey, he's really hard. But I started to just read everything. I was like, I know I always wanted to be a mom my whole life. He's my baby. I had a really tough delivery with him. Oh, there he is. Thanks for putting that up. I had a really tough delivery with him. I actually almost died in the hospital, and it brought my husband and I so close. He took care of the baby for me. because I couldn't even get out of bed. I had a really high fever. It was kind of dangerous situation. But the good thing was we had a strong bond. Like we knew we wanted our family. I was happy to have my son. And I was like, I know I can figure this out. I know I can figure out my kid. I must be doing something wrong. What am I doing wrong? What can I learn? What strategies can I use? So I probably read 15 books on parenting in the first 4 or 5 years of his life. I read every book that I could find on parenting. Dr. Sears, the old stuff, the stuff about putting a baby to sleep and ferberizing babies, and then just how that applies to adulthood. And then when he got into school, it got harder. So preschool, he had a really great teacher. She was a retired public DC public school teacher. So she was tough, but she was tough love. And that really worked with him. So she was able to manage him, but she said he's going to have issues, Nicole. She said he's going to need special education. And I kind of looked at her like, I'm a teacher, right? So I know all the teacher stuff, and I didn't see my son had any intelligence issues because it's a behavioral issue.
Right.
But I was still learning. To me, I was like, my son's smart. He can remember things. He remembers conversations. He can engage really well to have conversations. So to me, that was sort of off-putting. And I was like, really, he's going to need special needs help? And I wasn't sure, but it stayed in the back of my mind. And then finally, when he got in kindergarten, he had just a mediocre teacher. And I'm talking about teachers a lot because for ADHD kids, if they don't react well to a teacher, it's going to be a struggle. If they don't feel like they can confide in that teacher, or they feel like that teacher cares about them, they're not going to want to do the work. And honestly, it's the same with parents. And we care about our kids a ton, right? But if they don't feel confident that you love them, and honestly, like, it's weird that they want to feel respected too. It's sort of the way the nature of their mindset is. Right. They don't want to do the work if they don't feel like you're a team. And that's what I found with my son anyway. And that's what I found with a lot of my ADHD students. I've taught over 1,000 students in my career. And since 10% of kids are ADHD, I've taught at least 100 students. And they really need to feel connected. Yeah, I've taught at least 100 ADHD students. I've done reports for them. I've sat in meetings to get them accommodations. So I feel like that piece is the hardest part, is the school piece. And that's where I really started to realize that he was having trouble. So we finally got a neuropsychologist did an evaluation for us. I think we did it in 4th grade. And then I got a great report on all his intelligences, what his needs were, what he was missing, which really helped in school. At home, he would still get angry. My husband, is ADHD, the hyperactive type. Benny is combined, and I'm the inattentive type. So inattentive means you're sort of more forgetful. You're usually calmer, but you're more forgetful. And you also sort of like, you misplace things. And also for me, I remember when I was younger, like, I'm not very organized. So like, I would have my students, like I had a lot of students that would help me organize stuff. And that's what's great about being a teacher. There were students that were organized, so they could just help me do that. As a mom, it's really hard to be inattentive ADHD because you're supposed to be the super mom. I'm supposed to be able to manage my 3 kids and go to work every day and turn all my grades in. And my house is immaculate. My laundry's always done. And that wasn't me. It's not who I am. My house is like definitely livable. It's clean. I put stuff away. I moved on to minimalism in my life. So we have less things, which really helps for inattentive ADHD especially. But I realized when I realized my son had ADHD, that's when I realized I had it too. I was doing all these Vanderbilt forums, and I was like, wow, these are similar. Like, some of the stuff he's doing is similar to me. I mean, when I was little, I would have dreams of finding things I lost and wake up like, oh, I found it. Because it really affected me that I would lose things, that it wasn't bad. My mom was super strict. So she was really good at keeping track of stuff for me, which was awesome when I was younger, but harder as an adult because I didn't learn the coping mechanisms I have now. Now I have strategies to help me organize and manage stuff. So that's sort of like what happened with my ADHD journey for me. It was with my son. I realized I probably have this too. It's of course genetic, right? So a lot of times it's carried on through generations, and both of his parents have it, right? So he had a really high chance of getting ADHD too. And he has, like I said, the combined type. So his emotions, he still gets upset sometimes. We have a lot of different strategies. My number one strategy for any parent is to not take it personal. Like, don't take it personal when they have their little meltdowns, because there's just nothing you can do. I mean, it's who they are sometimes, and you have to like wait for the calm and then approach it with like a solution. So I'm sorry, I don't know why I have these messages on, but that's like my big, that don't take it personal is my big thing. I'm trying to think, is there anything else you wanted to know about the journey part?
Well, going back to what you said about the school, with my nephew specifically, there was a lot of struggle. And even now, we've changed him from school to school to school. And one thing we found that did help was finding him a school that had, I guess, less kids in the classroom.
Yep.
So that they're able to focus on the children a little bit more. So that definitely has helped. And he's super smart and intelligent, but the behavior part is where we just need help on, you know, and that part is we're trying to work with him and trying to figure it out. And, you know, to him, something he may just be playing around with someone, or just sometimes certain things happen where, you know, he does get angry, or he does get, you know, very emotional about something. And sometimes it's like, it's so small, you know, and we just kind of teach him right from wrong. But I think the behavior part is where we struggle.
So over time, it sort of changed. It used to always be ADD, which is attention deficit disorder. And then I'm not sure how many years ago they changed it to attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So they used to just have the two. And so the ADD one would be me, right? Like I'm less attentive. And then the hyperactive one would be someone more like my husband, who's a performer for a living, right? So he has a lot of energy. He always has to be moving. And then my son, the combined type, could be a mix of both. Over time, they've now, I think it was a couple years ago, they actually have the umbrella term is ADHD. So all the different types and subtypes, and I think they're going to find more as we continue to work through this process. It's just, there's so much research coming out on ADHD, and because the brain chemistry, there's new ways to study it. So there's just such a development of that, of the different types of ADHD. So, but ADHD is the umbrella term for all of them. And then of course, there's the hyperactive combined type, and then the inattentive type are the three basic types.
Okay, yeah, because when we found out first with my nephew, they said that he had both ADD and ADHD.
Yeah, combined. So he had combined. Yeah.
So with that, I mean, just experiencing from my nephew, there's times that he's all over the place, you know, playing around, doing a million things. But and then there's those times that he's just real calm, and like you barely even know he's there. Would that be an example of both types kind of happening right there?
Yes. So the hyperactive type, the hyper focus can happen for any ADHDer. So if you get into something you really like, and one of my notes, I was going to make sure you find kids need a purpose or something they're really passionate about. And that's where the hyper focus can come in. It can be awesome, but also hyper focus can be hard. And I remember in our pre-conversation, we were talking about Legos. He might be able to spend 3 hours doing Legos, and ADHDers won't even go to the bathroom. They don't even realize, like, they are so into what they're doing. I write a blog, right? So when I'm writing, I might sit down on my computer, and if I'm really into my blog post and I'm like trying to explain something and I'm excited about it, I might sit and write for 4 hours. I don't even get up. I don't drink. I don't eat. That's hyper focus. Yeah. When you're really into something, you can stay in it, and you have to like set timers and remind yourself to take breaks and like interact with the real world, because we're able to kind of go in this hyper focus. So hyperfocus is sort of, it's kind of a calmer one. Also the forgetfulness. And then again, like you said, the hyperactivity one is where you just have a lot of energy. So my son is a runner. He goes and runs probably twice a day. He goes and runs in the morning sometimes. In the afternoon, he might go for a run. He just knows, like sometimes at 8 o'clock at night, he's like, Mom, I'm not going to be able to go to sleep if I don't go run. And he doesn't go jog. He runs. He runs. So he's the one that he'll just sort of, he self-manages his condition that way. So he'll slow himself down. He's like, Mom, I just need to go run, and he'll go run. And so that's sort of the combined. Yeah, it's great. I mean, we homeschooled for a whole year, which really helped him learn the strategies he needed. I wouldn't recommend that to everybody. It's it's a really hard road. But for us, it was a very hard year. My husband took on the brunt of it because I was still working, and then I would come home and I would try to do his math with him. But it's not easy, but it was great for us because he learned what strategies and what things motivate him and how he learns the best. So kind of like with you, when you found the school with the smaller class sizes, with ADHD students, our public school system doesn't really honor those students as well. It's just the way it's built. I'm not saying anything negative. I've been a teacher for years, right? But there's systemic issues with reaching ADHD students and special needs students in public schools. So you have to honor that by finding maybe a different school or a different class. Even parochial schools sometimes are good because they're not that expensive and they're smaller class size. So those are some sort of helpful tips if parents are struggling with school. School for us was always the hardest issue. Again, you have to have, if you're doing those Vanderbilt forms that you fill out to decide if your child's ADHD, you have to be showing symptoms at home or at school or both. So that's some of the issues. And then also the social issues come up. So a lot of times ADHD students have a more difficult time just making friends because they're impulsive. They might be like really loud and running around, and the student's like, the other child's like, what's up with this kid? You know, they're like, I don't want to be friends with you. You're too much. And then sometimes they might do something like they set them off. Someone does something to be mean, but an ADHD student who has less development in that frontal lobe, right? So they like won't make the right decision. They'll just get angry. And then they get really mad. And the friend is thinking, why are you so mad about this? You know, like, why did you get so mad about that? I just was playing around. And they'll take it to this higher level. And the maturity level is also really important. So ADHD students and adults, even me, I'm 40, I feel like I'm 20. Like, we just mature slower. I still feel like a big kid. And a lot of ADHD kids too, your nephew is 10, but he may be acting like a 6 or 7-year-old. And that's in his mind. He's a 6 or 7-year-old. So when parents can think to yourself, I'm really parenting more like a 6 or 7-year-old. He needs more practice with these strategies. Like if you tell, like when you were talking about right and wrong, I think that's so important. Students and kids have to have those morals, right? You have to know what's the right and wrong thing. But guess what? With an ADHD kid, you have to tell them not 2 times, but 15. It has to be repeated. They have to do it over and over. And you have to be okay with being like, yep, we said this before. I told him this is wrong. Let me explain it again. And they just need that repetition because they're much more immature. They are just immature in their brains, especially in terms of behavior and learning what's right and wrong, learning to do the right thing. And they want to do the right thing. And ADHDers also have a big sense of connection. Like they want to connect. They want relationships with their families. They want relationships with others. A lot of times they'll want relationships online because they want to connect with others. That's a big thing for ADHDers. They just kind of feel more connected to, this is my personal feeling, but they're sort of a little more connected to humanity. They kind of feel they could be more empathetic or sensitive to all of humanity. They really want to be connected. And sometimes that's hard because they are looking for that connection, but they're not as socially developed. And so that they want to get that connection, but they do things that turn people off, and then they don't have as many friends, and that hurts them. So, and remember, I'm speaking in generalities about my own experience with ADHD.
Yeah, and saying with what you said about telling them 15 times, you know, some parents who were brought up kind of old school, where it's like, this is it, that's it. You need to get it now, or don't get it at all. And I think sometimes that can be a challenge for them because it can be new to them and they don't know the different strategies. They just know the one that how they were raised, and they try to apply that to their child with ADHD. And I think that's where the struggles kind of happen. And I've seen that before.
So our house was really loud. It's still loud, but our house was loud. We would raise voices. And not always in an angry way, but just you're excited. You want to share your excitement and your energy. You want to be heard over the dull roar of the 5 people in this house and our dog. It's just an energetic household, which is great, but it's also hard because you have to be calm. You have to listen to people. You really have to just sort of understand that everyone gets their turn. And so ADHDers sometimes look for drama. Remember that we're missing sometimes the serotonin, the dopamine hit. So that dopamine that you're looking for, remember the reward ceremony, the rewards area of the brain is the prefrontal cortex. So for a lot of people, they might go take their trash out and check it off. You feel accomplished, like I took my trash out and I feel good, I got it done. Whereas ADHDers may not get that reward. They don't get that feeling like I did the laundry, check it off, I'm happy. No, they just want to leave the laundry. It's like, I don't feel good about that. You don't have that built-in reward system for those basic chores, for those basic, even getting school papers done, getting schoolwork done. You just don't get that same feeling in the reward center of the brain. And then what that ends up happening is what ends up happening is you want that dopamine hit from anywhere you can get it. So you're not getting it regularly. So if you get drama, if an ADHD person is around drama, they get a dopamine hit. And it's negative, but to the brain, it still reads it as, ooh, we're excited now. Like if Angel and I are arguing and I want to take it higher because I'm like, we're feeding off that dopamine hit that we're both getting, right? And also because we're different types of ADHD, he's like a doer, and I'm more a thinker. So we like that clashes sometimes, right? We're different. And so, but then we're also getting that dopamine hit from the argument. Like you're like, oh, and you don't realize it, but you just keep on doing it. So for us, that's been one of the things. Like if you feel like, why is my son or why is my daughter arguing with me all the time? Sometimes they just want that dopamine hit and they're getting it from the drama. And it's just what it is. So that's another thing that sometimes people don't realize. If you feel like they're mad all the time or looking for an argument, they're just looking for that dopamine hit. Maybe they can go run. Maybe they can go, get that serotonin, or they can go screen time is a whole nother conversation, but screen time gives you that dopamine hit, especially video games. That's why a lot of ADHD kids are really into screens, because they're getting that reward. It's external because they don't have the reward center in their brain developed. So they're getting it externally from the game. Right. So that's why it actually is coming out. It's coming out as an addiction. They're going to classify screen time as an addiction this year. The World Health Organization. Yeah. They just can't classify it as an addiction, just like alcohol and all the other ones. So, and again, addiction is also really runs rampant for ADHD community. And that's, again, you're looking for the dopamine hit that your brain doesn't already have, right? So you're looking for it. 50% of inmates, and this is depressing, but 50% of inmates are ADHD that were untreated, right? If you go to a jail and you do tests, 50%. And that's because they were not treated. They did not get the strategies to learn how to manage themselves. And that's really scary. We, as parents, we have to protect our kids. We have to teach them, like, hey, it's okay that you're different. I'm going to help you. I'm going to show you how to function in the world. And actually ADHDers are the most successful. Walt Disney was ADHD, right? Wow. Think about it. Justin Timberlake, ADHD, right? There's so many famous, when ADHDers get it right. Seth Godin is one of my favorite marketing writers. He wrote The Purple Cow and a bunch of other marketing books. But Seth Godin is one of my favorite ADHDers. He's a writer. And when an ADHDer gets it right, they just soar. So that's what's really cool. It's sort of like a juxtapose, right? Like you're really struggling, regular life is tough, but if you can figure it out, you're going to take off. So that's one of the blessings of ADHD too, is the superpower side that you really, if you're passionate about something, ADHDers are going to go all the way. They're going to go all the way. So.
Yeah, and that's with my nephew, with him doing Legos, and he likes playing Minecraft. Which is screen time, so we may adjust that a little bit. But I can easily see him as like an engineer, just building stuff. I mean, because he does it and he just gets lost in it, and it's just crazy. I mean, and he's like genius, the things that he does, and in the short amount of time that he does it, it just blows my mind. And he's very smart when it comes to all that. But that's interesting. You like what you said about the dopamine hit, because. Sometimes my nephew will get to the point where he wants to argue or he raises his voice, and that makes sense where he's could be doing that to get that hit. when
Yeah,
he can
just
put
like
it
my gut.
elsewhere in a positive way. So that's definitely something we need to incorporate to so he gets it in a positive way.
So they're finally starting to recognize it's called the gut-brain axis. So we have a gut, we have a brain, and we have an axis, right? The axis is, some people call it the vagus nerve. There's a bunch of different things. It's like your immune system that connects your brain to your gut.
Okay.
So we, of course, did a whole trial run of pharmaceuticals for ADHD. Inattentives don't always take to medicine as well. I know, and my son knows because we both tried them for about 6 months, and we gave up. It was literally HELL to take all these different medications for us. It was so scary. My son was in tears. It was, medication is great for the person that it works for. It can really, really help them. And I no judgment. If medicine is helping you, please take it. Please take it. But for us, it was the worst thing we ever did. It really changed our personalities. I felt like I took Adderall. I felt like I got hit by a truck. I couldn't get off the couch, and I had a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. So, and I was just trying to be that mom, right? Like, I'm a mom, I can do this. I'm going to take Adderall, I'm going to be invincible, because it helps you organize your brain. But my problem was, for us, it didn't work. Here's the thing with the gut. There are all these dopamine, serotonin. 95% of serotonin is made in your gut. So when you're treating the brain with a pharmaceutical drug, like, for example, Ritalin, or some of the other ones, like there's NSAIDs, and these have to do with uptaking. So what happens is you have these neurotransmitters in your brain, right? They're floating around. ADHDers have certain, like, less blood flow to certain parts and less available neurotransmitters. There's dopamine, norepinephrine, and then serotonin. So when you take these medicines, they will make those neurotransmitters more available to the brain. So instead of being absorbed back into the bloodstream, they'll kind of stay there circulating. So you get more of those neurotransmitters working, right? So you get the dopamine, you get the rewards, you feel better.
Right.
In your gut, though, you make it. Okay, so it's going from your gut to your brain. That's where your brain's getting it from. So they've learned, with new certain bacterial strains, and that the science just came out that they're even able to test this. This actually came out about a bunch of research with autistic kids. So a lot of autistic kids were taking fecal transplants, which sounds gross, but it really just meant they would take the bacteria out of certain, stuff.
Right.
They would, and then they would put it in a pill form, and the kids would take it. So they're basically taking this healthy bacteria from somebody else's gut and putting it in theirs, because you want to repopulate with these certain strands of bacteria. A really good one is Lactobacillus helveticus R0052. And if you read my blog post and you go to my Family ADDventures site, you can find the blog post that tells which strands do what. So they realized these certain strains were producing the chemicals and amino acids we needed in our body to make the missing neurotransmitters, right? So when you're taking a pharmaceutical drug, which do take, if you want to and it works for you, please take them. But if it's not working for you, you can go back to the source. So you can start rebuilding the population of your gut bacteria. You got to take the right probiotics, prebiotics, and then you have to take the right, just make sure you're eating a little healthier. The great thing about it is when you reset your gut, you will actually start to crave healthier food. So I don't know if you've ever seen any of these, like sometimes they have them on Facebook, the little ads about certain food cravings. And if your bad bacteria has taken over, you're going to crave Swiss Miss cake rolls and Doritos, right? Right, because they're good. It's addictive. I mean, food is an addiction too. And the food companies know that, right? So you get these, you want that, right? Because the bad bacteria are in charge. They've taken over. If you repopulate with the good bacteria, and it takes a few months, I'm not saying this is like overnight, but it takes a few months. But if you start taking these other probiotics and repopulating, they'll kill off the bad guys. And the good guys are in charge. The next thing you know, you're like, ooh, that chicken salad on the menu looks good. Whereas 3 months ago, you're like, give me the hot fudge sundae or whatever it was that you wanted. So it's really interesting. The research is new, but we take a lot of natural supplements in my house, a lot of omegas for the brain. It's really important to take omega fats. Really important to stay hydrated. The brain the brain is our bodies are 70% water, right? We need water. The brain doesn't function if you're dehydrated. So water, omegas, and then the supplements we're taking for our gut. And I really see a difference. I really seen a difference in my children. And I have my 4-year-old. I think she's a little ADHD, a little more the hyperactive type. You
Mm-hmm.
can't really make any assumptions yet because she's young. Yeah, there she is. But she has been taking some of the supplements, and the response is immediate. There's this one that has saffron. So saffron extract is a new one they've been using in Europe to treat ADHD. They don't use as many pharmaceuticals in Europe as we do in the US. So they use saffron extract. And this one supplement we have, she will literally take it and she's happier and calmer. It literally builds something called stress resilience. So you can have a longer fuse. You can be more relaxed, right?
Got it.
So that's kind of what we do in our house. That's what I know about the gut-brain axis. I'm still doing more research on it. I'm fascinated by it. I think it's so cool that we could actually take something to help build it in our own brains instead of taking a pill and trying to like work with just this when we got this guy down here.
Yeah.
That we
It's
can
kind of
really
like
help.
a win-win, you know? It's a win-win situation.
Yeah.
You're eating
Right.
healthier and all that. Now, I've also read so much. It's something that, you know, my family and I, you know, my girlfriend, we're trying to change into like a vegan lifestyle. Would you say, is that something that like in that direction where it's like, you know, putting in that positive stuff versus all the, you know, Swiss cakes and all that?
Yeah, I definitely think it's healthier. So I actually did a lot now, but protein's important. It doesn't matter what kind of protein. So if you want to be vegan, that's fine. You can just do the pea protein. I take a pea protein shake every morning. It's really helpful. I think that one of the best things about the vegan diet is that you're going to just think about vegetables. So you want those fibers, those prebiotics. The prebiotics, the certain vegetable fibers, will feed the probiotics that you take, the right strains, right, I was telling you about, and that will grow. But those good bacteria are not going to grow if they're not getting the right fibers. So if you're going vegan, hopefully you're getting more vegetables, and that's the thing. I mean, it's vegetable fibers and fruit fibers that are really going to help. So anything that feels healthier to you, and especially anything that has more vegetables, and more fruit, that's what we need, right? More plant-based food, definitely. And all the research I've done, plant-based food is big. They also are big on eggs a lot, just because of the protein, how it's quick protein. Vegan wouldn't count, but it doesn't matter. You can find plenty of beans and other sources of protein. Yeah. So I think that's great.
So this study and this with the gut health, have they shown like any improvement with ADHD? Has it diminished? Has it, or been, does it cure it? Or I mean, how does?
Yeah, right. So they can't say cure. They're going to say that it helps the symptoms. For me, it's mostly been testimonial based. This paper that just came out, they're presenting it on April 6th. So actually, I want to get in and read the whole paper. But they're presenting it to the board on April 6th. It's with this other company I work for. A biochemist, he's a PhD biochemist. Actually, he started doing this work because his brother committed suicide. And he thought mental health was so important that he wanted to figure out what the missing link was. And for him, it's the gut. And I've seen that too. Anxiety, depression, and ADHD is a little different. To me, that's a little more genetic, but all of those conditions are definitely, you know, related to health and nutrition and the gut balance and the gut bacteria. So I do not have statistics for you, but I do have a lot of testimonials. Like I've read tons of testimonials of people that have taken, have repaired their gut health. I know there is research on the autism. So I know with some of the autism, I don't know the percentages, but I know with some of the autistic patients, they were able to get them to go from being nonverbal. So think about it. You've had a child who's 15 and they've never spoken. And within 6 months, they're saying their first words. So that is amazing. So there has been some really amazing changes with the gut. And like I said, a lot of the research started around autistic individuals. So.
Yeah, and just what you said about just mental health in general, I mean, that is, so important to the world because, you know, there's so much negativity out there. There's so many influences that unfortunately come off a little bit as negative or are told someone to portray a certain image. And that just messes you up. So, I mean, just having that mental health awareness and just feeding the brain with good stuff is always a good thing. I wanted to talk about really quick. So my nephew has to take melatonin to go to sleep, and I know that's been common or seen in a lot of for ADHD. Is that something that with the gut health can promote to maybe not use it, or how does that work where they?
How does that work? So again, your gut makes melatonin. So if you're taking melatonin, that's good because you need sleep. Sleep is so important to a growing brain that whatever works to get you to sleep, it's fine. Like take the melatonin if it's helping. You will find that the melatonin will have to increase over time because your body will get used to you taking it and you'll need to take more and more and more. It also happens with Ritalin, Adderall, all of the medicines you take for ADHD. You'll just go up and up and up because your body now is taking it externally. With melatonin, if you can improve the gut health, the melatonin again is created with the amino acids when you have the healthy balanced gut. So you will wean yourself off melatonin completely if you can get the gut right. Yep. You can, it's amazing the kind of changes you can make and just how much you just feel invigorated because you realize like this is what living should be. I mean, another thing that can happen with ADHDers is a negative thought pattern. So you might tell yourself negative thoughts over and over. I do want to mention this too for parents because your voice is what the child hears their whole life. So if they hear you saying like, oh, you forget everything. Why did you forget your homework? Why can't you do anything right? Why did you do that? They'll start to internalize that negative voice, and especially ADHDers. Oh, there's my Robbie. Especially ADHDers, they will just hear those thoughts just replay. You don't even realize, but those negative thoughts just go in your mind. You have to do a lot of personal work to break through some of these patterns that start when you're younger. A lot of it happens in school too. If the teacher's always telling you, stop talking, be quiet, why aren't you listening, why aren't you paying attention? You feel like you're a problem. And that internalizes and that gets in your brain and it just repeats itself. I mean, you almost the kids will create their own trauma. It becomes trauma for them. And it's scary. You have to, you really have to try to be positive with them. And it's hard because they're so hard when they don't listen, right? ADHD kids are really hard because they don't listen to their parents. And you're like, what is wrong with you? Also, a lot of a structure and routine is helpful too. To just get those negative thought patterns out. If they just see a picture on the wall of how to do something, I remember when my son was young, we took pictures of him getting dressed and brushing his teeth, and he loved it. We did a photo shoot, took all the pictures, put them up all over the wall. He loved it because he didn't have to ask me. I didn't have to nag him. I was like, what's next on your picture? And he would look at it. He made his bed. He was 7 years old. He made his bed. I mean, and now I'm not always consistent. That's my inattentive type, right? So I'll start something, but sometimes I don't finish it. But it taught him, and then he still, to this day, lights the candles for our dinner and puts on the music. And that was pictures. We took pictures of a record player, pictures of him lighting the candle when he was 6 years old. And my 13-year-old still lights the candles. And I don't have to tell him anything. I might even be like, I don't want to do candles tonight. Let's just eat dinner. I'm tired. He does it. And those pictures on the wall. So it's those things that take it off of yourself as a parent. It's too much as a parent. We have so much to do. And I'm an ADHD parent. So it's even like, it's crazy. So we have so much to do as parents. Put it on them so they can see their chart. They know what they do. They know what they need to do, and they can take responsibility. It's the nagging that really drives them crazy, and it drives us crazy too. And we don't have to do it. Just put it on a timer. Be like, do your homework for 20 minutes. When the timer goes off, you can play a game. Or when the timer goes off, you have to start your homework, and then it's not you nagging. It's the timer went off. I didn't do anything. The timer did it. You got to take that responsibility off of you, and put the ownership on them. Because that's the way they're going to take ownership for it and really they're just really going to start to embrace who they are and how to do things themselves. They need to be able to do things themselves. They need that empowerment. It was really hard. I will tell you, we didn't go for a whole week. It didn't last a whole week. So yeah, fail. It wasn't a huge fail, but it was a little bit of a fail. One thing I would say, if I was going to do it again, do it in the summer. We did it in the winter, and it was when we lived in Maryland, not Texas, so it was harder. We kind of have a little more structure around screen time. What I learned is if you can come up with other ideas and have your kids do it. Like, what do you guys want to play? It was a lot of like playing Mousetrap or playing Monopoly or playing cards, playing matching games, playing hide and seek. We did a lot of games. So we used to have game time right before dinner. So it was like indoor games like hide and seek. We used to do just, you can even get online for Google for all those, like, you know, Red Rover, send someone over, all those silly games we played as kids. We used to try to do that in the house because I didn't want them to have screens and I wanted them engaging, and they want games. And it was just a different, so we started implementing some of those strategies, like we would do game time. I mean, we're lucky we're a bigger family, so like games are fine. There's 5 of us if you want to play hide and seek. But if you have like, you know, 2 people in the house, well, you're just one person looking for somebody. So you do the best you can. But that helped us. So we implemented game time after that. And then for me, I was just trying to be more aware. I still want to turn off Wi-Fi every night at 9 for me and my husband too. My husband hasn't agreed to that yet though. But I would like to turn it off at 9 or 10 so we can kind of like just plug the phones in and walk away. I know that's a really good strategy for a lot of parents, especially we have a tween, right? So they get their phones and then they want to get on their phones and then they're watching YouTube at 10 o'clock and you're like, oh my gosh, you have to go to bed. So that's one thing, the Wi-Fi control. There's the Disney Circle is something that controls your Wi-Fi. I think Verizon has it now. So you can control your Wi-Fi. If you want to have dinner, just shut the Wi-Fi off on your phone and then everyone's like, can't get on my phone. Like if you have older kids, you know, everyone, okay, it's dinner time. I guess we can't get on our phones. So, or I can't get on the computer or whatever. So that's sort of like an external way to manage it. Again, we weren't super successful with no screen time, but we did connect more. And I think that's the goal is, also ADHD family household, it's a little more stressful, right? Because there's higher emotions and you really need to connect. You need to know that you're supporting each other. And you can get angry sometimes. You just fly off the handle quicker. It sort of can happen. And you just need to be connected to each other. Spend some time talking. Spend some time. Like I remember like playing dominoes, card games, all the stuff, you know, our generation's parents did. It's like we don't do that as much. And I think it's really important for all kids, not just ADHD kids, to really connect with each other. You know, like even if you're watching a video, watch it together. Like, hey, my son's watching this funny YouTube video. Hey, what is that? Show it to me. It's funny. TikTok, but just show it to me and I'll laugh, right? Like, just show me something so we can connect, so we can relate to each other, because that connection is going to carry you through those times when it's hell and you're mad and he's mad. If you laughed the day before about a video, or if you snuggled and watched a movie, or if you took a walk with the dog together, you got to fill that relationship bank, because it's very draining to parent an ADHD kid. So you got to fill that bank. And then that way you have that to fall back on. And then that way they'll tell you, like, I'll be very honest here. My son spent a lot of money on Fortnite. And I didn't know. I had given him my credit card. He had bought one thing and it saved it. And he spent a lot of money. And it was really, really hard. I was so angry. To me, it was like he stole. And I was so angry with my son. We took a 45-minute walk and he admitted to everything. He said he was sad about moving from Maryland and he wanted to talk to his friends and show off to his friends online. He really came clean with me. And that's because, you know, we put the time in. I mean, it also could be bad, right? Like, he's not that great. He stole money on Fortnite, right? Right. But to me, those impulsive things are going to happen forever because, you know, with ADHD and stuff. But if we can connect and talk about it, that's when you can really make a difference. If you build that relationship, if you know that, you're mad at each other sometimes, they don't do their homework, you're nagging. But if you can make that connection, and they'll open up to you, you're invincible as a parent, because that means he's still going to go to you for help when he feels like he's struggling. And that's the most important thing to me.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you 100%. Having that connection just helps them open up, you know, especially when they're having a struggle or they encounter a situation, a problem that they're in that they may be embarrassed about or sad or even scared to express themselves. That connection is super important for that same reason, you know, just to, you know, have them come clean, just to talk, just to get it off your chest, you know, just take that weight off your shoulders, because it makes no point in just to carry that with you or to get that dopamine hit and now it comes off in a negative way. So having it that way, you know, I'm glad you said that, because that's to me very important with or without ADHD. Just to have that connection.
So it's interesting because I just had an argument with my son, and I don't argue with him very much. I really try to shut it off and just be like, don't take it personal. Don't take it personal. Like say it like a mantra, like you are going into meditation, like, oh my gosh, don't take it personal, whatever it will take, because they will push all your buttons. For me, again, the structure is super helpful. If you have like a very structured day, like we have karate this day, and on Tuesdays, you go to do this. And that helps a lot of people just have that structure so the child knows what to expect and they can't get as angry, especially when they're younger. Like, I was playing free time, but they know that every day at 6 o'clock, they clean up Legos or whatever it is, and it's time to set the table for dinner. Again, it's the clock telling them that, it's not you. So that's really helpful, those outside structures. For disciplining, so with Fortnite, I'll give you an example of my child with what happened with the money. With Fortnite, we took away the game for a month. So it actually motivated him, and he's building it, like, not building, but he's moving his second computer around. He has computer parts all over the room, and he realized, he was like, oh, if you took away because it was his Xbox. So we took away the Xbox, so then he had to, like, be more creative and figure out other ways to do things. So that's really important for them to get that. For me, it was like, you're off the screen. I said a month because it just wasn't, it wasn't cool. Like, he took money. Yes, that was kind of a severe punishment. My husband probably would say it wasn't. He probably thinks we should have taken everything away. But for me, that was severe to take it away for a month. That was his connection with friends, right? He was talking to his friends back in Maryland online. And so, I was like, you have to text them on your phone.
Right.
You're not going to be able to play with them. I don't want you, I'm mad about you taking money, and you're not allowed to do that. Another thing I used to do with disciplining is, a lot of times it just need to be calm and sort of relaxed. And it's hard for me. I'm super positive parenting. Remember that. So, like, my parenting style is very much positive parenting. So I try to catch the good. If, like, I'm trying to think of the stuff he used to do, like when he would run away, like when he ran away on the beach and stuff when he was like 4, I would make him sit with me on the edge of the ocean, right? Like, the pool was always my favorite place to discipline because it meant you couldn't go in the pool. Natural consequences are really important, especially for ADHD kids, because they need right away to know it's wrong and how to fix it. If you say, oh, we're going to ground you tomorrow, right? We're going to ground you tomorrow. That has nothing to do with right now. Or tomorrow you're going to go see your friend and we're not going to let you do it anymore. Or another big thing is, don't take away the biggest thing. If they're looking forward to something for a month, but they did something really bad the night before, they need to discuss it. But I don't know if I would take away, like, that one really, really big thing. I try to make sure it matches sort of what the infraction was.
Okay.
I know as a teacher, I had definitely had a lot of different stuff. For me, I would make the kids do stuff like, I would make them tutor other kids and stuff. I was mean. I was like, you have to come in and, like, help study. I would make them come in and, like, help other kids study and stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I would make them come in for lunch, but I actually made them do stuff. I'm like, so we have kids coming in to study for this test. And a lot of times, my ADHD kids too, they're always smart. So they like know all this stuff. So I'm like, you're going to help this kid come in at lunch. You're not just going to sit here and, like, feel sorry for yourself. You're actually going to do something. So to me, it's always about doing something too. Like, make sure they have an action to go with it.
Right.
Again, the pool was my favorite. You just can't go in the pool and sit out. And that's, like, the best thing ever. I'm trying to think. Also, like, building rewards sometimes is good, so that they're always working towards rewards, so that they know, like, if you do something bad, you're losing your chance. Like, I think we used to have a coin system where if I'm just trying to think about your nephew's age. I think when Benny was 9, he could earn time to go to the trampoline bounce places like Bounce You or something. So, like, every third time he did something really well, he'd get to go to the Bounce You place. Right. And that was helpful because I was, like, trying to catch him do rewards, or if he finished all his chores, stuff like that. And that's definitely a teacher thing, but it helped us just try to recognize, like, hey, you did something good. You can go put a sticker on the chart or whatever. And it actually really worked for him, because can you think of an example of something you might want to discipline? I just want to make sure I'm giving you the right answer. And I feel like I'm going around it.
I mean, I would probably say maybe just not listening. You're told, hey, you can't, go outside, which actually this happened just the other day with my nephew. He was at home. He was told not to go outside, and he disobeyed and went outside. And he was just playing, and it's like, okay, you didn't listen. You just went out there. Yeah. And one of his toys he was playing with, he kind of lost, in the process of that. So it was like, okay, you went outside, you didn't listen. Not only that, you just lost one of your toys. If you wouldn't have gone outside, this wouldn't have happened.
Right.
So, I guess, what's your approach on that? Like how?
Yeah, and sometimes I'll do the explanation thing, like, why are you not going outside right now? And sometimes that doesn't help. They don't care. But sometimes the explanation helps. Like, hey, we're not going outside right now because whatever reason, it's time to help with dinner or it's time for you to do your work. It's really important. A lot of times I'll try to put it back on me too. Like, hey, mommy really needs your help. If you don't listen, then I can't trust you. And the trust thing is really big. Again, going back to that relationship piece, like, hey, if you don't listen to mommy, I can't trust you. We can't do the really fun things. And I will bring it up. Like, even something simple as a seatbelt. Be like, if you don't put your seatbelt on, I can't trust you. How can we go see your friend? Like, take it and be like, I have to trust you. It's really, really important. And you're breaking my trust. I have to trust that you will listen to what I say if you're going to get hit by a car. And the trust thing doesn't, like, it takes a while to develop that.
Right.
But if you keep saying it, and then you're like, the next time they want to go outside, be like, you know what? I don't know if I can trust you to go back outside. You might let them, but you're definitely going to bring up that trust again.
Right.
Like, you want to go outside today? Oh, wait, remember what happened last time? Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That might help a little. And if I think of more stuff, sometimes I'm really bad on the spot. But I'm sure I've written a blog post about it, and I'll definitely send you stuff too to help. Yeah. But
during our conversation just the other night, also happened with my nephew is getting ready for school, and kind of getting him ready. Like, hey, like, come on, get ready, get dressed, let's go. It's time to go. Let's go now. We got 5 minutes. And something you said you did that was very interesting was kind of the reward and kind of like putting these timers or reminders so he knows, like, okay, next I know I got to do this and this. How did that come about? I mean, because that was very interesting.
So my son was terrible. He's still terrible about getting ready for school. I will say, try to do as much as you can at night before the school day. But I'm not good at that. But that's my goal, right? But that's right. The goal. When I was working, I was really good at doing everything at night, the night before. And now my gift this year is to stay home with my kids. So I love being able to get up in the morning and make their lunches and be part of stuff. My son had to make his own lunch when I was working, so it's been nice. Yeah. But I will say, for us, he did not want to get up. He was always distracted. He didn't want to. And also for him, he didn't want to go to school. School was like the worst thing in the world. He had a really tough teacher in 5th grade. She was not a good fit for him, for lack of a better way to say it. I don't think she should have been in the profession. I'm saying that as a teacher, though, so I can say that. But anyway, so he didn't want to go to school for a lot of reasons. So he would lollygag. He wouldn't get dressed. Couldn't find his socks. I don't know where this is. This doesn't match. So he was always sort of dawdling. And it really worked with the timers. So we had timers up. So he got to watch, at the time it was Transformers, the Prime show. So right before the bus would come, or no, he walked to school then. So right before he walked to school, he would have like maybe 20 minutes of time. So you take your time. Say you have to get up at 7:30 and the bus comes at 8:20. So you kind of just give them all the responsibilities. So 8 o'clock, if you finish everything by 8 o'clock, you have 20 minutes to watch your show. So what we did is I even had tie your shoes and put your lunch in your backpack. Like, I had everything done. And I've seen some parents will do bracelets. So they'll put little bracelets of different colors, and then you take it off when you're done.
Oh, wow.
Some kids need like a visual thing. So like maybe you have 5 things you have to get done. Like purple is put your clothes on. Red is make your bed. Green is eat your breakfast. And yellow is to put your lunch box in and put your shoes on. And once they've taken off, and sometimes they just need that physical reminder. Like once they've taken off all 4 of those bracelets, they know I'm done. So I can watch the TV. And then it's also nice for the parents because the parents don't have to see anything except look at their wrists, and if all the bracelets are gone, they're done. So that's another way to kind of help them. Or with us, when we did the chart, we had time. So it was like, 7:35 to 7:45, he had to get dressed and have made his bed. So he could kind of check, am I on time? Is it 7:45? And I had a clock in his room, and I had 1 clock in the living room and 1 clock in the kitchen. Remember, inattentive types like me, we're not aware of time. Like, you have to tell me what time it is. I don't know.
Clocks everywhere.
It's just not my thing. Clocks everywhere. Clocks everywhere. Because I don't know. I'm like, my mind is in its own place. So I'm like, yeah, it's time. Real world. Let's go. So he needed that. And so the clocks helped. We had clocks everywhere. And then he would know, okay, 7:45 to 7:55, finish your lunch, pack up your lunch box in your backpack, and finish whatever chore. I forget. I think he had to feed our cat back then. So he had to feed the cat. And then, of course, by 8 o'clock, it was like, 20 minutes. And in the beginning, it was 8:20 and he still hadn't fed the cat, right? It was time to go, and he still wasn't done. But you got to give them time to sort of adjust to their schedule. Like, let them realize it's their time. Let them realize, oh, I have control of this, because they want control, especially ADHD kids. They want to control. That's what they want, and that's what they need. So if you give it to them, you give them that ownership. You empower them to take control of their own time, even as a 10-year-old, even as an 8-year-old. Hey, you have power here. Use it. You know, you have power to use it right. And they need that ownership. And it really, really helps them. And so he was watching a show. He had his shoes tied, and he was watching that show by 8 o'clock. So he had 20 minutes to watch his show and eat his little breakfast, whatever it was. So it really worked for us. And again, the bracelets are something I spend a ton of time on Facebook ADHD groups, just helping parents. Like, I love it. I see stuff for accommodations or whatever. I just comment. I love to help out parents because we're such a tribe. Like, it's so much work to parent ADHD kids. You really need some support. So
that's awesome. Well, with that, I mean, for everyone who's watching, so it's Family ADDventures, ADDventures.
Ventures.com
is your website. They can also find you on Instagram the same way. On Facebook, what is the group page?
Same thing, Family ADDventures.
Family
ADD,
ADDventures.
yep,
Okay.
ADD with double D's Ventures, yep.
Yeah, awesome. Nicole, thank you so much for everything. This, I mean, was amazing. My mom is watching where my nephew is at, my mom and my sister. So I really appreciate that. I know they do. They've been sending me messages like back and forth.
Good.
It's really exciting to just hear all the positivity out of it. Because I think for a long time people were terrified of it. I will say the truth on my end, where it was scary for me as well. And I'm sure for my family, it's just how do you deal with it? So but I always saw it as a superpower. You know, he's just so intelligent. He is so smart. So he has so much he has to give, you know, and it's just trying to, I guess, work at his level and how he can retain the information and just grow and shine, you know, and that's what we really look forward to. So I appreciate you so much for taking this time.
Another big thing that I always say is to forgive yourself for mistakes. And that's not just an ADHD person, that's a parent. We make mistakes all the time, and the next day is another day.